Why this room is the most dangerous place in the world. I'm gonna take a guess before even watching. It's because it's radioactive.
What's radioactive?
I have no idea. I'm just taking a guess. And it absolutely was. I'm a fucking genius.
This video was made possible by Mozilla. Learn which products respect your
Just about a
privacy
dangerous
with their
room.
privacy not included buyer's guide using the link in the description. Everybody and everything that has ever existed eventually dies. Death is ultimately just part of living on our planet, so it should come as no surprise to you that Earth is a dangerous place. But where on Earth is the most dangerous place? Assuming that you could take all available precautions like clothing, gear, weapons, a handy Toyota, or whatever else you can think of, and disregarding any laws relating to access, where would be the most dangerous place that you could go to that you're allowed to be prepared for? The quick answer is a basement located here in Ukraine, but the longer answer is ridiculously interesting and totally worth your time to listen through a little backstory. The basement is located in a familiar town to many of you called Pripyat, and is nearby
that's where Stalker takes place, I think.
Power plant called Chernobyl. Over 30 years ago, in 1986, the Chernobyl power plant experienced a catastrophic disaster.
That happened in 86? I thought it was a lot
During a routine overnight test, reactor number 4 in the plant experienced a power surge. The nuclear core's temperature inside of this reactor grew rapidly, and in the following attempt to control this temperature, an even greater power surge was caused instead. Due to numerous design flaws inside of the reactor, 2 explosions followed from a buildup of steam caused by the core's increasing temperature. This molten fuel began to seep down to the bottom of the reactor vessel. This nuclear lava melted through this vessel and into the concrete and pipes below, where it eventually reached the reactor.
Yeah, but isn't there that plant that eats radiation? We'll just start planting those.
Control rods, sand, glass, and concrete slowly cooled into an object that would later be called the elephant's foot. Back above the ground, the Soviet Union engaged in the largest civil engineering project in world history to contain the radiation
if it was closer, I'd
the
go.
atmosphere from the reactor. 500,000 workers were brought in to
move to a different country if it were here.
A gigantic concrete and
as long as I could drive
fortress built around the destroyed reactor. Inside to this day are sealed 200 tons of radioactive corium, 30 tons of highly contaminated dust, and 16 tons of uranium and plutonium. Being on the roof of this sarcophagus is enough to expose you to a full year's worth of radiation in just 12 minutes. And the inside is so lethally radioactive that it could kill you within minutes.
Let me hear that.
That it is 12 years worth of radiation. The roof of this sarcophagus is enough to expose you to a full year's worth of radiation in just 12 minutes.
That's not that bad. A single CT scan exposes you to 3 years of background radiation. Right? We watched that video from Veritasium. A single CT scan gives you 3 years worth of radiation, I think. Background radiation. I guess this is different.
And the inside is so...
No shot? Yeah, it does. No, it does. An abdominal CT scan gives you, I'm pretty sure it was 3 years worth of your normal about 3 years of background radiation. Oh, my webcam's blocking it. 12 minutes isn't that long, though. A CT scan's not that long. CT scan's less than 12 minutes. Well, I guess depends. That's fucking nothing, though. The most radioactive people on the planet are smokers. They get more radiation than, like, a CT scan, astronauts, all of that, by a long shot. Daily. So, just literal smoking cigarettes is the most radioactive thing you can possibly do to yourself. Fucking crazy. Yep, here, I'll bring up the video again. Veritasium explains it better than I do. I'll just skip to the end.
An astronaut on the space station for 6 months will receive about 80,000 microsieverts worth of radiation. But not even they are exposed to the highest levels of ionizing radiation. So can you guess who is? The answer is a smoker's lungs. A smoker's lungs, on average, receive 160,000 microsieverts worth of radiation every year. That's due to the radioactive polonium and radioactive lead in the tobacco that they're smoking. So not only are they exposed to carcinogens and toxins, they also receive very high levels of radiation. So it's not the people of Fukushima or Chernobyl or radiation workers or even astronauts who receive the highest doses of ionizing radiation. That honor goes to your ordinary, average smoker.
Isn't that fucking crazy? When I heard that, I was blown away. And then I looked it up because I wanted to double check. Pretty much everything I can find confirms that that statement is pretty much true. It's wild. Thanks to the resub. Latiter. Not many people smoke cigarettes anymore, at least not many people I know. So I think it's kind of on its way out. But even still, that's pretty crazy.
The sarcophagus
I know a lot. Well, there's a difference between smoking weed and smoking cigarettes. What makes cigarettes so bad, like radiation-wise, is the tobacco, like you mentioned.
Scientists were sent into the ruins to search for nuclear fuel that could cause another explosion. And after 6 months of searching, a team encountered an unbelievably radioactive mass in the basement around the corner from where they were standing. Using a remote-controlled camera, the team took the very first photographs of the elephant's foot located inside. It's only 2 meters across, but it weighs as much as 100 tons.
God damn!
And it was so dangerous at the time that it would expose you to 10,000 Roentgens per hour, which means that in just 30 seconds it would be enough to induce extreme dizziness and fatigue in you that would last up to 2 weeks. After 2 minutes of being near it, it would be enough to cause your cells to hemorrhage. And after 4 minutes of being near it, it would cause vomiting, diarrhea, and a fever. If you were near it for just 300 seconds, it would be enough to guarantee your death within 2 days. But despite this, we have several photographs that exist of people right next to it. The grainy and almost ghostly effect that you're seeing in this photograph is because of the radiation produced by the elephant's foot interfering with the film of the camera. Nobody knows what happened to this worker or the photographer taking this picture, but based on the time limits that I listed earlier, it probably isn't very good. They may not have known just how dangerous the object was then, but over the 30+ years since then, the elephant's foot has grown weaker. A study in 1996, 10 years after the disaster, suggested that 5 minutes in the presence of the elephant's foot now would be enough to give you radiation sickness, and an hour next to it would be enough to kill you, which is far better than the 300 seconds that
it's weakening, okay.
However, the elephant's foot is still
some pussy shit.
Hot and is still melting through the concrete floor of the basement. Should it melt all the way through...
Hold on, I just gotta pause for this. Radioactivity is the most fucked up things humans have done. Oh man, I'm gonna have to sit you down here for a second. We didn't make radioactive anything. We didn't create radiation. Every single day you go outside, you are naturally exposed to ionizing radiation from the sun. Radiation is natural. If you're talking about nuclear energy, that's like the literal cleanest energy you can have. The Chernobyl disaster is just a horrible, horrible accident that happened. But we didn't make radiation. That is out there all around you all the time. In fact, a single banana has a not insignificant amount of radiation. It's not dangerous, but it's, you know, you can measure it and it's there. Everything has radiation. Everything is radioactive to like a certain level. So sleep in fear.
So if you're looking for the most dangerous place to be on Earth, the inside of this building should definitely be near the top of your list. And if you're looking for some privacy, here is Mozilla's Privacy Not Included Buyer's Guide. The holidays are right around the corner, and a great gift is one that won't spy on you. But the good news is that Mozilla has created a completely free...
So that was exactly what I expected it to be. It was mainly just a brief history of Chernobyl, and if you stay in Chernobyl, it's not good. It's always still interesting, though. Chernobyl really is a pretty fascinating catastrophe. It disappeared 53 years ago, then reappeared. A plane disappeared and landed 37 years later. I'm assuming this is the one you mean, right?
On July 2nd, 1955, Pan American Flight
Jesus
914
Christ,
made its
Maki,
way
and thanks for
from
the Prime
New York
Duck.
to Miami, Florida.
Thank you, Maki.
It was
God
a fine,
damn.
sunny day, and
Holy
57
shit.
passengers on board the plane were looking forward to seeing the warm beaches and palm trees of
Miami
Florida.
sucks. It was probably better the plane disappeared.
But 3 hours
Miami's
later,
trash.
when it should have already landed at the destination airport,
Thanks for
it
reset
was
tunnel.
nowhere to
Prime
be seen.
Smith. Thank you so much,
Radars of the
Maki.
control tower in Miami didn't show any approaching aircraft, and no distress signals were received either. When air traffic control contacted the New York tower, they got a perplexing reply. Flight 914 just disappeared from the radars in midair.
Oh, so they got abducted. Let's
Everything
go.
indicated that the plane was lost to thin air, leaving no trace of itself or any of the people on board.
Did Pan America ever have a
Investigation was
successful
started right
flight?
away.
I feel like every
The flight
tragedy
took the
involves
plane
that
over
one,
a part of the
that
Atlantic
airline
Ocean,
from back in the
and
day.
it seemed that the only explanation of its vanishing was that it crashed somewhere along the
Maybe
way.
Prime Galax.
Rescue teams were deployed, the Coast Guard was scanning the waters, but still no luck.
Hey, Tampa slaps,
Not a
Miami
single
sucks.
piece of the lost plane was to be found. Although the case was never really solved, there was an official statement that the plane crashed, taking the
No.
lives of everyone on board.
I'm assuming that was
But
wrong, though?
despite numerous and understandable questions from the grieving relatives, no one could say what really happened to Flight 914, until 37 years later at least. Change of scenery. It's now September 9th, 1992, and we're in Caracas, Venezuela. It's a perfectly normal day for Juan de la Corta, air
Hey,
traffic
Juan.
controller at the Caracas airport. He turned up at work, made some coffee, and took his seat.
He seems so
overlooking
nice.
flights. He was giving some minor comments on a flight in progress when something weird happened. Seemingly out of nowhere, a new dot appeared on the radar. It was as if an aircraft had just popped up from nothingness, or as if it had been hiding from the radar and now decided to show up. Either way, it was a strange thing to see near a civil airport, and De La Corta checked the reading several times, thinking at first that it was a mistake.
This is false, you
wasn't,
think?
though.
I don't
The
know.
readings were correct,
Seems
and
like a weird
soon,
story to
he
make
and his
up.
colleagues were able to see it with their own eyes.
This is so
In
intense.
less than 10
Like the way this is
minutes,
edited.
The culprit showed up in the field of vision. At first, it looked to the air traffic control like an ordinary airplane. But as it got closer, they could see that it was, in fact, a very old DC-4 McDonnell Douglas passenger aircraft. And the pilot of the mysterious aircraft contacted the tower and asked in English, "Where are we?" As the one in charge
What
at
the
the time,
fuck?
Juan de la Corta replied
This feels
they
so
were closing in
fake.
on the Caracas
It's some
airport
sci-fi shit.
and asked where the flight was headed. There was a pause on the other side, and then the pilot answered,
Things use of
"We are
actors.
Pan Am Flight 914 headed from New York to Miami, Florida, with a crew of 4
This is
and
absolutely
37
fake.
passengers on board." This took the air control completely off guard.
Oh, this
What
is
was
fake.
a Pan Am
Oh.
flight doing 1,100 miles away
Man, what the
from
fuck?
its point of destination? And how did it even get there? De La Corta was quick to ask a few more questions to the pilot, and what he heard next baffled him. The pilot said his flight was scheduled to land at the Miami airport at
I thought this was gonna be
9:55
like
p.m.
a real
on July
story.
2nd, 1955. Now it was time for the tower to fall into silence. No one can explain what happened that morning in Caracas.
So this is just super fake all
Smell
around.
that? Smells kind of fishy, right? I must say, though, there's much dispute about the credibility of this event. Back in 1985, a tabloid called Weekly World News.
Oh,
was
so
the
they even
first to
address it
cover
in this
story.
video. Okay.
And yes, I just said 1985, 7 years before the most popular version appeared. Later, the same news.
Okay. It's just a fake story then, entirely. I thought it was going to be some kind of like interesting brain buster. Like, how could this plane disappear and reappear so long later? Guess not. I just got fucking had. How many of your old videos have been found so far? 0. Like I said, it's most likely impossible. I have links to a lot of the... Well, I have links to like pretty much every old video. They're all dead links, but I do have them. If anyone's good at rebuilding them, I guess. And I imagine that's the way it'll stay. You seen the video of the woman that builds hobbit houses? Christy Wolf builds underground home and sets rural west... I don't even know what WA is. It's Washington State.
This property was inexpensive because you can't get any city utilities.
So does she just make the
Bring
Shire?
power or what- I did have plans.
That's
but
the blueprint? This is like something I would doodle. How do you take this and actually translate it to a house? Or is this just like a sketch of what she thinks it would be cool to look like?
Just plans that I had drawn out on graph
Oh,
paper
here we go.
and done the math myself. So some things did have to change, but for the most part, we worked off of those.
It looks nice. You did a wonderful job.
I read the books and I've watched the movies, but when I was getting closer to this build,
How does this go on for 25 minutes?
I did that because you can lay in bed and look at the fantastic view.
That is a cool view. Middle Earth never looked better. Man, it seems like a lot of people have done this. Have you seen the one about the woman who's in a relationship with a carnival ride? Yeah, of course I have. We've seen all of the, like, objectophiles. I don't think there's any we've missed. There's only, like, 500 in the world, too, apparently. Guy who married his car? Yep, of course. And the guy that just has, like, a polyamorous relationship with his car, so he ends up, like, fucking the director's cars when they went to, like, film him. He finished on their, I think it was, like, their hood or something. Seen it all. Have you seen the 3D printed houses? Why this 3D printed house will change the world. Well, it's been over a year now. The world's about the same. Actually, it's barely been a year.
Exclusive and many impressive
Ooh,
prototypes.
That's kind of nice. Oh, that looks like Tatooine.
But things have just taken a massive step forward in Germany with the completion of the first ever 3D printed home to become fully certified under a national government's building regulations.
Thanks for the Prime.
The impact of this moment for construction and for the buildings we all use could be huge.
Was it cool? I didn't know that, actually. I didn't know they were 3D printed.
Cutting waste, reducing time on site and addressing labour shortages, some see 3D printing as the answer to many of our world's challenges. Originally used for small-scale prototypes, advances in 3D printing have led to the creation of full-scale structures like bridges and homes, and even plans for mankind's first Martian base. But
3D printing is really
structures have
fucking
appeared
cool.
around the world, from Canada and the Netherlands to Dubai, which wants to 3D
I really don't
print
think we
a
need
quarter
slow
of its
mode,
new
man.
buildings by 2030.
It's not like crazy or anything.
The technology is yet to take off as a widespread building technique.
That's cool. I don't really need to see a whole a whole explanation of it. I get the concept. They look pretty nice. They're starting to 3D print meat. Yeah, they've been working on that for a while. It's a pretty cool project.